Okay. Cool. Oh, it's my chair. Shit, I thought that was the tech. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 8 of 20-somethings. Because we're in our 20-somethings and we gather around to talk about some things. So when this episode comes out, it will be the 22nd of December, I think. So it's 3 days from Christmas. So hence the, the nails, the hair, the lipstick. I'm trying my best to be festive as possible, and this is the best I can come out with. So I hope you appreciate it. The fact that it's Christmas, I thought it needs to be a Christmas episode, right? I need to talk about Christmas. And everyone that knows me knows that I am a bit of a Grinch. My mum, who is coming on later, she is such a little Christmas fairy. She loves Christmas. I try my best to be more festive for her. However, I don't think I can ever match that energy. I completely understand it, and there's things you can appreciate about it. But this intro segment that I'm going to do today is my Christmas grumbles list of all the things I don't like about Christmas. Merry Christmas. Okay, the first thing that I would like to complain about Christmas is the fact that the weather is cold and dark. And I know that everybody says this. Yeah, I know, it's very obvious, but bear with me. I'm getting more to a specific point. I don't like the fact you wake up, you go to school /work /whatever you're doing, and it's dark. You do your day at work, you do your day at school /whatever you're doing, and you get in the car to come home, and it's dark. And the realization that you have spent all of your daylight hours in that shitty little office block /school /wherever you've been, and literally not seen the light of day. Humans need daylight. We need to see the sun and the sky. And there are genuinely weeks that go by for some people that do not see the light of day. And people talk about seasonal depression a lot, don't they? I remember one year Mum got me a little sun alarm clock. Do you remember that? The alarm would have a light on it, and it would gradually turn on like 2 hours before your alarm would go off. So you'd like gradually wake up as if you were waking up with the sun. And it was all right. But then it sometimes used to stress me out if I'd wake up early and I'd see that the light was slightly on. I'd be like, oh shit, I'm running out of time. But I appreciated the gesture nonetheless. Thank you. It is also why I think that winter people are freaks compared to summer people. A lot of the time I hear from people like, oh, I don't like the feeling of being too hot. I don't like being sweaty. It just gets me all flustered. You can get cool quicker than you can get warm. No, vice versa. You can get warm quicker than you can get cool. But I actually completely disagree with that. I would 100% much rather be too hot than too cold. Jump in a pool, have a cold shower, take an item of clothing off. Have one of those sprays. Do you remember we had that spray on holiday? Was it Evian or something? And you go, and it was like cold spritz in your face. And that was, wonderful. I'd much rather that than putting on fucking a thermal t-shirt, a thermal top, thermal leggings, jeans, top. I just can't be bothered. I cannot be bothered. Just pop on a little t-shirt and some shorts and you're away. How is that not better? And my second Christmas grumble is genuinely, and I say this with a passionate hatred, is Christmas shopping. Seriously, needs to be abolished. I hate it. I do my best to do all my Christmas shopping online, and every year without fail I'll always have some things I'm like, realistically I need to go into the city to get that. I need to see that in person, like a candle or something. I try and limit it to just one day in the city because I don't want to do more than that. And I shit you not, my day in the city this year was midday on a Wednesday, I think, when all the schools were still at school, and it was fucking rammed. What are you doing midday on a Wednesday? I'm allowed to be there because I'm a uni student and I don't have a job to be doing. Why are all of you in the fucking city taking up all of the car parking spaces and shoulder barging past me in Primark? I don't understand why that's happening. Oh, I'll choose a nice little quiet day and I'll be able to get my job done. No, because that doesn't exist at Christmas time. Every day is chaotic and every day is stressful. Happy New Year. And because of the amount of people there are, the body heat in those shops, my God, it's like the Sahara, and you come outside and it's like the Arctic, and the hot and cold and hot and cold and hot and cold. Genuinely makes me feel sick. In fact, there was actually one occasion I was sick, and that was when I was a child, and my mother took me into work with her to drop off Christmas presents. And we were going from the car to the office, from the car to the office, from the car to the office, and it was hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold. And I stood at the front of my mum's office and I said, you know, Mum, I feel a bit sick. And I was such a hypochondriac child, still a hypochondriac adult, but worse so as a child. And my mum was like, no, it's all right, Ava, you're not going to be sick. I was sick in front of her entire office, on the floor, in front of everybody. And I don't know if maybe that plays into why I don't like Christmas shopping, because of the hot and cold, and why I get stressed when I feel sick. I feel as a child, it's not acceptable to be sick in front of all those people, but it's more acceptable than being 21 and being sick in a public place in front of all these people. Do you know what I mean? It's less cute, isn't it? On top of the Christmas shopping, actually, it does make everyone's skin. And that also means that all my birthday money is gone. So my birthday's always in November. Funnily enough, that's how birthdays work. They are always the same time every year. And it's all gone by Christmas. I spend it on everybody else. I always used to see that as a bit of a con, because I was like, oh, well, what's the point of me getting this money for my birthday if I'm not spending it on myself, kind of thing. But actually, as I've gotten older, it's such a dub. It's such a win, because it makes me a lot less skint for Christmas than everybody else. That's the most useful birthday present ever. The stress of getting the right presents and spending the equal amount of money as the other person, that is quite monumental. Because imagine if you got somebody a present that was like a box of chocolates or something, or like a cheap bottle of Prosecco you don't want that's been sat in your kitchen for however long, and then they've got you a really expensive vintage ring or a trip away or something like that, and all you've got to give them is this just fucking little token that you don't even really care about. That's so embarrassing. Not even from a money front, because you can have cheap presents that are thoughtful. I think if somebody makes you something like handmade, I think that's so nice. I think that's worth more to me than something really expensive. Do you know what I mean? Because they've put the thought and the effort and the care into it. But that versus a bottle of Prosecco that's been sat in your kitchen you don't want, that's embarrassing. And plus, at Christmas, you always end up with these presents with just a load of random toot that you don't really know what to do with, don't know where to put it away, kind of want to throw it out, but you can't because it's too close to when you got it, and then that would be rude. So you just kind of have a pile of shit in your bedroom for however long until you eventually sort through it. And my third and final Christmas grumble is... and I think a lot of people my age will relate to this, is wrestling the tree with your mother and having it be absolutely perfect. I think that's a universal mum thing. My child will get the tree out of the attic. My child will do all the grunt work, you know, untying all of the knots and all of the lights and the tinsel and all that shit, and carrying all the heavy boxes and putting the tree up. And then I'll put the pretty baubles on, because you'll definitely do it wrong. Every mum does that. And like every mum, if they've got little kids, they'll go, oh yeah, we'll have the cute day, like putting the baubles on the trees and making it look pretty. And then as soon as those kids are in bed, they're straight back downstairs and organising that tree to make it look better. And the top looks incredibly sparse and the bottom is covered with baubles because their children are like that high. I think as a universal mum thing, they can't not have a tree that looks perfection. And I think when I'm a grown-up and I have my own house and my own tree, I'm going to have my mum be the first person to visit, and I'm going to purposefully make it look shit. Like I've just half-assed chopped down a tree from the garden. Like it's like ripped some of the leaves off. Shoved a bit of tinsel on it and like one bauble. Obviously then I'd make it look nice after that. But I just think that would be... Although would I? I actually just think that would be quite funny. Basically, my overall point is that the only fun, good bit of Christmas is the food. And low-key, because you always, every Christmas, have to see people you don't want to see, I think everybody is in unity with their joint hatred for certain people at Christmas. And there's really something quite special about that. Brings people together, whether by force or by choice. So happy Christmas, everybody, and have a happy new year. I'm now going to move on to my segment with my mum. The Mum's the Word segment. Isn't that so great? Mum's the Word segment. She offers her advice to the questions that you send in. Definitely did that first try. Cool. So I'll see you in the segment with my mother. Hello, Mother Dearest.
Hello. Hi.
This is the second episode that you've been on of 20-somethings.
Yes, I know.
And we're in a different room.
It's really untidy in here.
I'm really not a fan of this room.
No.
But we didn't really have an option. It was either in this room or no episode today.
Yeah, no, it's very untidy. But we have adorned it with Christmas, Father Christmas, and your gift to me this year, which was a grumpy Christmas frog. So that's you. And that is me with a beard.
Well, jolly. That's what you are.
Jolly.
Jolly little man.
Jolly grumpy. Yeah.
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 I think that's quite an accurate representation.
It kind of follows on from your introduction, which I just want to have a little chat about before we do the advice thing. I'm quite disappointed in you, to be honest, because I've raised you to be festive jolly, and I feel disappointed that you're not really. So I used to be a bit like you at your age, I figure, because my dad was Mr. Christmas. And I can remember being your age and being out Christmas Eve and being quite drunk and coming home at 4 a.m. and my dad ringing up at 7 o'clock on the house phone, singing Christmas stuff to me. And I'd be like, oh, for God's sake, Dad. I didn't get in till like 3 hours ago and it's just too much. So I understand it, but I feel I work harder with you to try and, bring the festive cheer, and you are very resistant.
Yeah.
So that can stop, really.
I try my best to be festive.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you? I must have missed that then, because I get really excited about it, because for me, as you know, it's not just about Christmas Day, it's all the little, and I was thinking about this the other day, it's about the traditions you have around Christmas, and every family is different, isn't it? And I think because we've got a little teeny tiny family, i.e. it's just you and I, predominantly, I have a lot of ground to cover.
Yes.
So I think when I was younger, we didn't really have as a family Christmas traditions, or any traditions about anything, let alone Christmas. So I feel like, because I am a little OTT, I've tried to gather everybody's Christmas traditions that anybody's ever done within a family. Yeah. And I try to incorporate them. So it's a bit like throwing mud at a wall and just seeing what sticks, really. So,
is that a saying? I thought it was pasta.
I think it's actually shit.
Oh, you can swear on the podcast.
I don't want to, though.
Oh, okay.
That's not a very good example, is it?
Have you watched any of the episodes, or?
To be honest, I'm a selective listener.
Yeah, that's fair.
Anyway, I feel I'm waffling, but basically, I'm trying to find some things that fit within us for traditions, so that when you have children and you have your own family and you're doing stuff at home, you will hopefully have some of the things that we used to do and continue to do, like snowballs.
I hate snowballs.
I know you do, but you used to hate red wine.
Yeah, but snowballs are egg white and lemonade.
Eggnog.
Which is egg whites.
Yeah, but
raw egg and lemonade. That, to me, that just sounds so jarring. Like, that's like milk and lemonade. Except you can actually drink milk. No one would just have egg white.
Yeah, but you're not having just egg white, are you?
With lemonade, making it fizzy.
And lime. Anyway, those are the sorts of things. Please enjoy it sensibly, everyone.
And get shit-faced. I think I'll get that. Do you know what? I think when I'm a mum, I'll love Christmas. I think when I can make Christmas magical for children.
Yeah, that's definitely the optimum point. But I think about Christmas now at your age, it's got to be about seeing people and being sociable and having the time to do that. And I think I have always tried to do that about Christmas. It's not just Christmas Day. because it can be quite a difficult time for people as well, because you notice people's presence and absence.
That's very true.
Because, you look around the table of Christmas past, and, we've had my parents there, and, I've been married and had your dad there and his parents there, and my, other family members, and they're no longer here. And so it can be a really difficult time. But I think because, most people are off for some period of time over Christmas, it is a time to see everybody and just appreciate who you've still got around you and make some memories, really.
You're taking a very wholesome attitude to it.
I am a wholesome type of person, I would hope. And I'm old, so, you get to my age and you reflect, I suppose, quite a lot. And you look back and you look at the things that have kept you going, that have given you solace in times of difficulty. And people do that, good and bad, No one's perfect, are they? So even the people that drive you mad, even the family members that drive you bonkers, you'll still miss them when they're gone, because nobody has a perfect life with perfect people in it, doing perfect things all the time.
I do.
No, you don't. Nobody does. Nobody does.
Because I'm perfect.
Just expect the shit to happen, and it will, and it doesn't stay. So, yeah.
And I think, it comes from a place as well with me and you, because I do appreciate that you've done. I said that at the beginning, that you do a lot to try and get me Christmassy, and you always have done, because as you said, Christmas a lot of the time is just me and you, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you have to play a lot of roles and fill a lot of space, really. Yeah. So I do appreciate that, but I don't think it comes down to your lack of effort or your weakness in commitment or whatever. I think it just comes from our characters.
Yeah, maybe. And a lot of it's to do with age, because like you say, when you were little, you loved Christmas.
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, it used to blow your mind.
I remember Santa bringing me a scooter.
Yeah.
And I woke up in the middle of the night and I saw the fucking scooter, and I literally was overcome with joy, wonder.
It was a light up one, wasn't it?
It was. It lit up in the dark. And I remember coming through to your room at like some ungodly hour, probably like 3 or 4 in the morning, and being like, "Oh my God, Mum, have you seen what Santa's got me?" And you were like, "Yeah."
It's exciting.
It is.
And I think at your age group, you don't really have any of the magic of it, do you? Because Santa's not real.
Spoiler.
But you're still, a lot of you living at home, so you're sort of living within family constraints of what they do and how they do it. Don't appreciate I'm going to have a twig with a bit of tinsel on it when I have my own home. You're absolutely not. But you are living within another, your own family, which is fair enough, but you don't get to do what you necessarily would want to do and create your own memories. Maybe when you start with your own home and you've got your own stuff to do, you will probably get more invested in Christmas again. Maybe I don't know, but
I think I agree with you. I had a conversation with Taya about it last night, actually, where I think that
Hi T.
Taya T. We're approaching another awkward age where, so that awkward age of like 14 to
25.
17.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Right, 14 to 17, where like you want to start having some independence and being a grown
You're
up.
Totally ill-equipped for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you feel like that's what you should be doing, but you can't because of the law, because of your parents, because of whatever. That awkward, I want to be doing this, but I can't. I'm limited by it. We're approaching again, because when your generation was in your 20-somethings, you'd moved out, you had jobs, you had, most of you anyway, like we're living an adult life.
Yeah.
Anyone I know, genuinely anyone my age that's moved out has only moved out for uni. They haven't moved out because they've bought a house or are renting somewhere independently. I don't actually know anyone my age that's done that.
No.
And all of these people that have moved out for uni have moved out knowing that they've got to move back in again.
Yeah, which is doubly hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you have a bit of freedom and a bit of sort of sorting yourself out, and then you have to go back to your parents, which must be difficult. I mean, I lived in Paris for a year when I was 18, and I was looking after 2 kids, so I was like super responsible. Who'd have thought it? Because I didn't know anything when I was on the plane about looking after a house or indeed children. And then when I came home, I had to move back home because I had nowhere to live. And that was horrendous, moving back in with my parents at that age.
Yeah.
So I get the uni thing. I think that must be very difficult to have a bit of a mismatch. At least if you're still living at home, you haven't experienced necessarily masses of freedoms. And it depends on the parents and how they expect you to behave within their home. I think some parents struggle to let their children become adults, and they want to live their lives very differently. But, the sooner you're gone, the better, really, within your own house and your own environment, doing your own things. I think it is better, but it's just so unaffordable at the moment. I don't know what will happen to your generation, really. It's a big ask, isn't it?
It is a big ask. And I think what we were saying as well is that, you know, it used to be I want to go out clubbing. And me and Taylor are a bit more like, I want to sit at someone's house and play games and drink. But that now isn't really an option because we all live at our parents' homes or different places in the country at our uni homes.
Yeah.
And it's an awkward level again. And I think when we do have our own homes or just places to live that aren't with our parents, then I think that Christmas probably, will get more exciting and everything will be more measured. Because we're at an age where I definitely shouldn't really be living at home. But I am, and I will be for the next couple of years because I'm studying where I live.
Yeah.
But I'm also really lucky with you because you're not constricting in any sort of way. Like, you let me leave when I want to leave and come home when I want to come home and drink when I want to drink and have people over. And, you know, as long as everything's measured and everything is respectful.
Yeah, I agree. I think, maybe it's because I'm a single parent. I don't know.
I think so, because then you don't have anyone to, like... I just have to run things past you.
Yeah, I don't have to balance it out with anybody else apart from Dave, obviously. But
that's our dog.
Yeah, he's usually okay. But I don't know. I think it's different if there's a family with lots of different family members. I'm aware of our neighbour as well.
Oh, Cheryl.
So just to be, you know, can you just be quiet if you are late? Because I think Cheryl will hear.
Yeah.
But for me, as I've always said to you, you just keep the place looking like it was when you came in and I'm good, you know?
Yeah.
Because you are a young adult. You should be able to do those things now.
I think we have a pretty good dynamic with that.
Yeah, seems to work all right. Yeah.
So, shall we move on with the questions?
Go on then.
Because otherwise I feel like we'll talk about this the whole time.
Yeah.
We have this conversation quite a lot, me and Mum, on different occasions, don't we?
We do.
So we'll talk about something else. Let's do that. Let's talk about your questions that have been sent in. So I haven't got all of the questions down here. I got sent some more than I've included. But I've tried to kind of do a mix of deep/funny/ things you'd be interested in.
Okay.
So the first question is, how can I enjoy alone time without feeling lonely?
That makes me feel quite sad that someone's even having to ask that. I think in order for any human being to be happy and content, you need to be able to feel alone without being lonely. Which is ironic, really, because a lot of people feel anxious about socialising with people, don't they? They feel anxious about and worry about talking to people. But I find on the flip side of that, I knew growing up, and I know now, people who don't want to be on their own, and they'll do practically anything to avoid being on their own. And I genuinely don't get it. But maybe some of it may come from childhood, about how you spent your time as a child. I mean, you were an only child, so you spent, I mean, you know, you can't entertain your children all the time. You can give it a good go. But inevitably, you have some time when you're on your own, and you have to be able to entertain yourself. And you were left to do that, I would say.
But I have met a lot of only children that now struggle with alone time because of that.
Right, so
it's gone back to front.
Okay.
I think it just depends on how it's processed. For me, I was fine with it, obviously, because I actually look forward to. So you were at work yesterday. My boyfriend was at work yesterday. It was just me and Dave, the dog, at home all day.
So you went strictly on your own then.
He's not. I don't know.
He's not a great conversationalist.
No, he's not.
No.
But I was looking forward to that day, and I really enjoyed that day. Yeah. I just sat there and read my book and ate what I wanted to eat and just did what I wanted to do.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to be able to know what to do with yourself when you have some time on your own. So we talk about this, don't we? What would you do in your perfect day? If you had, you know, a whole day to yourself, how would you indulge yourself and make yourself feel happy on that day? And it's amazing the amount of people that just go, I don't know what I'd do. I think I'd be a bit bored. So, come on, you know, you could get in your car and go to the beach. You could run yourself a bath and have a really hot bath, shave your legs, paint your toenails, put a face mask on. You could binge watch all 3 Hobbit films and Lord of the Rings. You could go for a really nice long walk somewhere. You could get a recipe online and go shopping, get some nice food and make something delicious that you really enjoy eating. You could read a book. You could, you know...
There's a lot of stuff to do.
What do you like doing, people? You know, how would you nurture yourself and look after yourself? I think a lot of the time we look at how to help other people, what to do with other people. How can you make someone feel better? I hope you all do. How can you be kind to others? How can you make them feel better? And then you forget, actually, I need to look after myself as well.
Yeah.
Not put yourself first necessarily, but... something I have learnt since being older and not 20-something is that you need to be as kind to yourself as you are with other people. So if you're unwell, I would say to you, have a nice bath, put some nice clean pyjamas on. I'll make your bed so you've got nice fresh sheets. I'll get some food that you like. You just have a day and just relax and just try and take the day to make yourself feel better. And then when I was unwell... I'd be thinking, oh my God, no, I've got to go to work.
Yeah.
I've got all these things to do. I'll just push through, which is stupid, you know. I should have been saying to myself, I'm not very well today. I will just take a day off, completely nurture myself, and hopefully I'll get better sooner and quicker. And why wouldn't I be doing that? So...
do you know what, though? I think that is... unusual to have a healthy balance with that, because I think so easily people can fall into either being like, I'll push through, this is far too important, I've got that meeting today, I'm seeing this person today, I've got to write this essay today, I've got to do this today, these important things, I must do it, I must push through. Or falling into like, oh, I just don't really feel up to it today, so I don't think I'll go. Like, it's really hard to find
a
healthy balance.
Yeah, I get it. You have to be honest with yourself. I mean, we've sort of strayed away from being lonely when you're alone, but I think it's the whole self-awareness of how you tick and what makes you function properly, how you look after yourself. And I don't just mean your physical body, I mean your mental health as well. And you can't really look after your mental health if you don't know yourself well enough to know what makes you happy, you know, and that's like a real basic, but a lot of people don't actually know what makes them happy.
Yeah. And, you know,
how do you do it?
Ever since you've said this to me, because we've had this conversation before, ever since you said this to me, I have asked people, I've been like, what do you like to do on a day that you're, like, your perfect day? And, it really surprised me as well. Not many people know. Not many people can even say anything. A lot of people sit there and say, I don't know.
And I think a lot of people waste time, don't they? And I think we waste time watching TV because we can't be bothered to think of anything else to do, or scrolling on phones. I do it as well. I'm not saying I'm a perfect person, but we waste time just filling time when really we ought to be thinking about, well, actually, what do I want to do? What would make me feel better? What would make me feel nicer? What would make me feel better about myself? That my day was enriched by something rather than just drifted by without me really doing anything. And we do need to think about that so that we can do those things.
And also so that when you spend time with people, it feels refreshing and not a necessity. Because I think if you don't feel comfortable on your own, you are wasting that time waiting for somebody else.
Yeah.
When actually you should be enjoying that time and then enjoying your time with somebody else.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? I think I'm too much the other way, where I think I enjoy my time to myself a bit too much.
Yeah, but you're still really social as well.
Yeah. I try my best, and I do definitely see people and do things. But,
I never worry about if I'm going to work all day and I know you're going to be at home, because I know you'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Because you'll either be doing something that you want to be doing, or you'll arrange to see somebody and do something else.
Yeah. And also I'm 21.
You're a big girl now, yeah.
So you shouldn't really be worrying, I've left my daughter at home. Is she going to be okay?
No, this is true.
I remember that the first time you ever left me on my own in the house, you literally just popped down the road to the one
so
stop.
Fast and got back so quick.
Because you were testing the waters, weren't you? And I remember thinking, oh my God, she's left me on my own. But no, not nerve-wracking. I remember being excited. Like, that's so grown up.
Not nerve-wracking for you, nerve-wracking for me.
Oh, yeah, I was so like, wow, I'm such a grown-up. Mum's left me on my own to go and get some milk. Wow.
I know.
How cool. Anyway, do you feel content with your answer to that question?
Probably not. I've probably really waffled, but I'm really sorry.
We've got a lot of questions.
Yeah, okay.
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Well, we'll do what we can do.
Okay. I think this is a really good question. Is there anything you wish you didn't worry so much about in your 20s looking back? Have I worded that badly?
No. I'm just thinking. Oh my God, everything, probably. I had a picture. Somebody sent me a picture of me. I think I put it on Facebook and I shared it with you.
Was it the one where you're going?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was 20-something. And I can remember just being paranoid about what I looked like, what I wore, my skin, my weight, oh my God, everything. And I look at that picture now and I think, I looked really good. Not tooting my own horn. Meep, meep.
Beep, beep. Yeah.
And I'm not saying I was the most stunning, gorgeous, amazing person in the world, but I looked all right, and my own self-perception of myself at 20 wasn't that great. And when I look at that picture now, I think I was really stupid.
Okay.
And I think that when I see pictures of you and all of your friends, and I think, they're all beautiful, and the guys are all really good looking, and the girls, they all look great. And I bet you're all bloody neurotic about weight or skin or hair or whatever is going on, whatever crap that, social media tells you ought to be. You're not this, you're not that.
Flat is one, isn't it, in our current society that wasn't in yours? Flat.
I don't even know what that means.
Being a flat girl, like having no bum and no boobs.
Oh, just...
Like, in your day, that was, like, desirable of skinny, isn't it?
Yeah, Kate Moss.
Yeah, Kate Moss is flat. But...
And that was my sort of realisation being older, really. I think when I was younger, you try and keep up with all the fashions of, oh, God, I need to have my hair like that. And then, so I'd literally grown my hair out and pixie cuts came in. And I'm like, oh, for God's sake. So then you cut your hair shorter and literally 6 months later, it'll be something else. And you have to just think, I cannot do it all. You can't be a Beyonce. You can't be a Madonna. You can't be a this. You can't be a that. You can't be all of those things. You just have to be yourself ultimately. Because when you look at these people and see how they are and why they're successful, they're doing themselves. They're not trying to be somebody else.
Yeah.
they are being themselves. Whether you like them, whether you don't like them, doesn't really matter. They don't really care. They're doing themselves.
Yeah.
And when I think about the people that I admired in my 20s, they were being themselves. Whether I liked it or whether I didn't like it, you can still admire people for being a particular way. And I think I was always a bit trying to fit in too much with myself, with other people, trying to not cause a rumpus, really. I mean, you're more feisty than I ever was in my 20s.
Yeah.
But I think I probably raised you that way, hopefully.
I talked about this on the last pod.
Yeah, yeah. You're a strong, independent woman.
Yeah,
yeah.
in the cot.
Because I wish somebody would have told me it's okay to not be the same as everybody else. Where's the joy in being the same as everybody else?
Well, was it you? I'm sure it was you.
Probably
You that I had this conversation with, where, we were talking about some plastic surgeries. Obviously, we were saying not all plastic, yeah. But plastic surgery in terms of like nose jobs, lip filler, Botox, cheek fillers. Sweeping statement.
For me, though, I find it that way.
We were saying, weren't we, that a lot of the time these women that get all these things done, they all look
like type.
They all look like they've got the same face. Like, do you know what I mean?
Like dolls, because they're all shaped the same. The lips are all big and pouty, aren't they? And the cheeks are all filled in, and the lashes are all, like dollies.
And the tiny little noses.
And you can't read their faces. They have no facial expression anymore.
But I also don't...
I don't like it.
I wouldn't want to look like somebody that... How do I put it? I wouldn't want to walk into a room and there's 6 women in there that have the exact same face as me.
With your nose.
With my nose and my lips
yeah.
and my... Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I do think that's an important thing to, like, not worry about is, like, the differences.
But I also think, for God's sake, everyone, what you look on the outside is so irrelevant, isn't it? It's like saying what coat you wear or what jeans you wear. It can change. It doesn't do anything for your mental well-being or your state of anything. It's just the outside. And you can be, as perfect looking as you wanted to be. You could get work done. You could, get a boob job. You could get a butt job. You could
get a BBL.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Liposuction. Whatever you want to do. If you're not happy in your mind with what's going on in your life, none of that is going to make any difference at all. And that's what troubles me about this sort of leaning towards the analysis of what people look like on the outside, which has been a growing thing since plastic surgery became more mainstream, whereas when it first arrived, it was just fantastic for people who were disfigured, and it was just amazing for burn victims or victims of the war that had scarring. It was just a revolution and it totally changed their lives, and that's fantastic. And now it's about making girls have bigger tits and a bigger ass and bigger lips, and I don't know, for me it just feels like we ought to be worrying about bigger things than that.
Bigger tits.
No, but you know what I mean. It just
I know what you mean.
Demeans it, and for me, it just feels really tragic. And I think with all the mental health issues we've got going on in the world right now, in every country right now, this is what we ought to be talking about and looking at and worrying about, not whether somebody's got big tits.
Wow.
Drop the mic. Is that what you say?
Yeah, that is a saying. We can definitely say that.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because sometimes people get, lip fillers or something because it's something they've been insecure about for a really, really long time.
Oh, get a grip.
Well, no, because genuinely that can be an issue. But, okay, I'll put another example out there then. For years and years and years and years, well, all my teenage years, really, all of my teenage years, as soon as you kind of become aware of what you look like, I hated my nose for years, and I would avoid having pictures taken of me from like a side profile, and I'd always like contour it to try and make it look smaller, because I just didn't like the lump in the middle. I hated it. I hated my nose. And now I actually really like my nose because it's different. And it's not different in a way of that I dislike, to be honest. It's just a nose.
But you could say that about anybody's nose. It's just a nose.
It's just a nose.
And I think it's this society that we live in. If you don't like something, you just get rid of it and you just change it.
Yeah.
Why? We surely, part of resilience and part of dealing with things is actually accepting things are different and things may not always be as you would wish, but you still get on with your life irregardless. So it feeds into that, if you don't like it, we're just going to change it. And I don't think that's good for anyone, because nothing is perfect. You start with your nose and then you'd think, well, what about my chin? My chin's a bit like this. I don't really like it, so I'd like to do that. Oh, now my nose and my chin are okay. I don't really like my cheekbones, though, because they now look a bit out of...
Yeah.
And you can see it happening to people. They start with one thing, and it moves and moves and moves. And it's just like, oh, for God's sake, just stop. Just leave it alone. And then before you know it, they don't look anything like...
How they did before.
And then they wish that they had their old face back, because none of it is familiar.
So to swing back to the question...
I forgot what the question was.
Is there anything you wish you hadn't worried about?
Yeah. A lot. Pretty much most of it, really.
But your main answer to that is mostly like aesthetic stuff, isn't it?
Exterior
like how you look.
stuff, and trying to fit in and trying to be like everybody else, because I think the strength comes in just being yourself. There's nothing more attractive about a person who just is who they are and they're not apologetic for it. You don't have to be an asshole. But you can say, well, I don't really like that. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You fill your boots and do whatever you want, but I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And I met people who would say things like that and behave that way, and I was so impressed, because I would be like,
oh,
wow, you can actually do that and not do what everyone else is doing and still be quite cool.
Yeah.
That sounds a bit crap, but that was honestly how I was growing up.
Well, yeah, no, I think, for example, like I've never taken any drugs. Hooray. Daughter of the Year, Daughter of the Life award.
Yeah.
And it's not because I haven't been offered them and I haven't been around them. I just genuinely don't have an interest. I don't care. I don't want to. And I've never, as far as I'm aware, I've never come across like a little neek for saying no to it.
No.
Like, I think I've always pitched it in a way of like, fill your boots, do whatever you want to do. That's so fine. I'm all right though. Thanks. Thanks for the offer. Like, and that's always been received well. I've never had someone be like, oh, go on. No, you're being so lame about it. Why not? I've never had that.
It's like all these things, though. You're doing it with confidence, isn't it? So if you just went, no, I don't think so. Then, you're open to persuasion, aren't you? Whereas you just say, no, I'm really not interested in that sort of thing. You do whatever you want, but I'm just going to have a beer or whatever.
Well, because, maybe then they have that whole thing of there's no point even trying to persuade.
Yeah.
Just get on with it.
Yeah, and I wish I'd have known that sooner. I wish I'd have been more confident in myself and not worried about what everybody else thought. Because it doesn't actually matter what anybody else thinks. They're going to think stuff anyway, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I wish I'd have come to that conclusion a lot sooner than I did.
There you go. I hope that was a very long answer as well.
Sorry.
But hopefully... No, don't be sorry, because I'm encouraging it. I'm doing the same. That's a very similar question. The next question was going to be, how do you deal with your insecurities? But that's very similar. How do you deal with them, though? Because we've talked about insecurities, haven't we, in that? And you've said that, it's very different now. How is it different now? Is that because of your insecurities are different insecurities? Or is that because you've learned ways of dealing with them?
I think they change, don't they, as you get older? Well, yeah, they just change in life, don't they? You may sort of feel insecure about, I don't know, your education, for instance. You may feel that you didn't do enough at school, but then you may decide that you're going to do something about that and study or do something, and then that insecurity will go because you've addressed it.
Yeah.
And it will move on to something else. So I don't think your insecurities ever go, because I think it's in our human nature to worry about stuff and be anxious about stuff. It's just, I think as you get older, I can look at my life, I can pan out a bit, I suppose, and I can see myself as the protagonist in the story. This is happening and you're feeling this. So, I've been unwell. I've had melanoma. So my current insecurity is it coming back, or dealing with the repercussions of the impact that it's having on my health, because I have to take certain prescription drugs to make sure everything's still okay. So my insecurities are about keeping on top of that, trying to be as healthy as possible. And if I pan out on that and look at it not from my own point of view, but as if it was someone else that was experiencing it, what would I be saying to them? I'd be saying, read up about it, try and be healthy, try and look after yourself, try and keep your mental health good, try and, so that's what I'm trying to do for myself. Whereas I think if I were younger, I would have caved a little bit probably under the weight of the insecurity, because I lacked the ability to pull myself out of it and think, okay, if it was someone else and they were experiencing what I'm experiencing, what would I say to them? And that's what I think I've learned as I've got older, how to deal with things differently rather than feel the weight of them on myself and only I can help me, is that I try and look at it from an external point of view, and I will try and talk to other people about it as well and see what they can do. I talk to you about how I feel, if I feel a bit glum or a bit crap, and it helps me. Whereas I think when I was younger, maybe I wasn't quite so good at sharing my insecurities, because when you're insecure, you don't always want to, do you?
No.
Because you see it as a weakness and you don't want someone to make you feel worse. And actually, if you've got good friends and there's people that you love and trust, they will help you, So, so I think by trying to look at it from a external point of view rather than my internal neurotic point of view has helped me, and sharing it with people, because the friends I've got in my life now, I've had a really long time. I do trust them and I value what they have to say. They are very useful, very wise people.
You've got a really good support group around you.
And friends are really important, aren't they? You pick your friends. You can't pick your family necessarily. And when you've had friends for a while, they've been through quite a lot of different scenarios with you, and they can really help. So that's the difference, I would say. Does that answer the question?
I think so. Yeah. I think it does. I think that was a good answer.
Okay.
And I think it was an important one, because I think, you hit the nail on the head. I think a lot of people don't want to talk about their insecurities in case other people make fun of them or agree with them or make it worse.
Yeah, your nose is really huge.
Yeah,
I totally
imagine.
get why you feel so bad about it.
Yeah, like that's so much worse. Yeah. But actually, you're right. If you speak to people that care about you and love you and you trust, that's not how they're going to react, because they're going to...
And sometimes they'll say stuff that really surprises you. So I think I'm really wise and know a lot of stuff. And then when I share something with somebody and they'll say something to me, I think, oh my God, I didn't even...
think about that.
I didn't even think about that. And you're totally right. What an idiot I was to even think about that in the first place. And that's really nice then.
But I don't think that you ever grow out of that.
No.
I think,
They just change, don't they?
Yeah.
They just change.
Okay. Thank you for that. That sounded like I was cutting you off. I'm not cutting you off. Thanks for that. Anyway.
Moving on.
I think that's a bogey on the table that I just thought was a pastry flake. And I tried to wipe it off the table and realised it was actually sticky.
That's disgusting.
This new room is so cute. Love it. Definitely going to be back in the other room next time. Have you ever experienced depression or anxiety, and if so, what coping mechanisms do you use? Now, I'm going to rephrase that question a little differently, because I know you, and I know your view, and I know what you're going to say, pretty much. 21 years of knowing you. From what you've said to me, you haven't struggled with your mental health in terms of like actual labels, have you?
No.
So that answers that part of the question. But I know that you also view, so like when people say, oh, I struggle with anxiety, I struggle with anxiety, that your response to that a lot is, well, everyone struggles with anxiety.
Everyone feels anxious.
Has felt anxious.
Yeah.
And has different ways of dealing with it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to rephrase the question, because I think what they're trying to say more is, have you experienced struggles in your mental health, and what were the coping mechanisms that worked for you? But if you haven't experienced those struggles, you definitely have been around people that have. And what of those coping mechanisms do you think were the most beneficial or healthy?
I mean, that's a massive topic, isn't it?
Huge topic.
So I don't know anybody who hasn't struggled with mental health issues in one degree or another.
Yeah.
Because I think we all do, don't we? Because the mind is like the body. It is not always 100% well, you know? It's not always functioning at its best. Full stop. So it's a bit like we were talking about, you know, about being alone and lonely, being on your own and being able to look after yourself during times. The same way that there is a little bit of emphasis about going to the gym and looking after your body and eating well and doing all of those things, there's not enough out there about how you look after your mental well-being, I don't think. There is stuff out there. There's lots of help available, but I don't think it's talked about enough. Or if they do talk about it, they talk about it in terms of crisis. Like, you know, if you really are struggling, you can do this. And if you really are at the end of your rope, you can do this. Well, that's lovely. But what about day to day?
What if I'm in the middle of my rope?
Yeah,
and
well,
I want
what
to
if
get
I'm
back
just
to the top?
beginning some bad habits that are going to lead me to not be looking after my mental health very well? What do I do about that? And there isn't anything that I've seen that really talks about and helps people create good mental health habits.
I agree. I think most mental health things, like aids that I've experienced, whether they're like trained professionals or literally just a leaflet that you get handed, all feel a bit to me like damage control. Like
the cat's out of the bag already.
Yeah, like do you know what it feels like? It's like there's a smashed vase and they've gone, oh shit, we smashed the vase, let's start trying to glue it back together. Let's just stop the vase from smashing at all. Because now you've had that big loud clatter and that big loud bang and everybody knows about it and it's really obvious and the pieces are everywhere. Instead of fucking sitting there trying to glue it back together, it'd be good if we just didn't break it. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I know exactly what you mean.
And I agree with you. I don't think that there are many things. Because you said, oh, if you're feeling at the end of your rope, what if I'm kind of can feel myself slipping to the middle of my rope from the top and I actually want to get back to the top? You know, there's stuff that's like, what about those halfway points that if I left alone are going to be those shit points? What about those, like you said, literally just bad habits at the very top that start, that if continued can lead you right down to the bottom? Where is all the help for that halfway point?
I don't know that it's out there, and I think a lot of it is to do with the way that we live our lives these days. So I was listening to Ruby Wax the other day, and she's very interesting. So she's had 2 mental breakdowns.
Okay.
And she has studied the brain and how depression and anxiety works on the brain. And it is, you can see it. You can see the thought patterns change in your brain. So it is a physiological thing. But there are definitely things you can do yourself. Because of the way that we live our lives now, we have to, as individuals, make more of an effort. So they will say that being a social being is really helpful for those people with mental health issues. It's not just about you being with other people, but it's about you helping other people.
Yeah.
And because years back, when you lived in a village, everybody knew everybody in the village, and you would know the old lady down the road who was struggling, and you would help them.
Yeah.
Or you would be going to church, and so you knew everybody else, or you knew some of the people, and you knew the kids that played near you because you grew up with them.
Yeah.
And they knew the parents, and there was a whole sort of, there's that saying, isn't it? It takes a village to raise a child, because there's all those different personalities, all those different sorts of people. So if you were struggling at home with your parents and felt uncomfortable with them, maybe you had a friend who lived down the road and you quite liked their family, and so you got a broader outlook of life, good and bad. There's probably the paedophile that lived down the lane, or there's the really godly vicar and his really godly children, as in my case, who are just too perfect.
Oh, that's annoying.
But there was such a wide variety of people that you felt akin to at least some aspects of some of those people. Now, I don't think we live like that anymore. I think we live in our little boxes with our families. They're very constrained. I don't know that we knew a lot of our neighbours when you were growing up. We knew a few. We didn't know many, though.
Yeah.
So I think that our exposure to people and others and helping others and being part of a community has gone. So we are feeling more isolated and more alone and probably more introspective, because that's all we've got to think about is ourselves and not other things.
The village.
Yeah. And I say village, I mean a community, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I remember, when we lived in the last house that we lived in, that was a fucking shit show when we lived there because of just things that were going on. And so I had Alice, didn't I? Like, what? Hi, Alice. Love you. Like, what, 6 doors down? My God.
Thank goodness.
Thank God Alice lived there. What would happen if Alice didn't live there? The amount of times that I'd just be like, all right, peace, and I'd go and walk to Alice's. Like, because I knew somebody in my village, literally, that was literally a village, few doors down, that I knew would be a safe place and a comfortable place and a happy place for me,
So being isolated is definitely a big contribution, isn't it, to mental health and mental well-being, I think. I think I've had times when I've struggled, most definitely, and everybody will, we all will. We'll all have times when, there may be life events that make. When my mum died, I think I was very depressed and very flat and very down, and I found that really difficult to deal with, because it felt like there's no upside to death. I'm normally quite good at trying to find the
silver lining
in things, but there doesn't seem to be one with death, or that I could find that could help me. So that just became an exercise in acceptance that it is what it is, and people don't live forever, and that you need to value them while they're there. And I'm really glad we did all the things we did, and so I was constantly trying to find affirmations and make myself feel better about it, but it took ages to feel lighter with that. So I don't know how to help. I think for me, I had positive, so I have a affirmation, like a mantra, that I feel quite embarrassed about, but you have to come up with your own. But it would be something like, I'm strong, I'm safe, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm loved. They were my things. So if I started feeling a bit panicky or a bit down or a little bit struggling, I would do my breathing exercisey things, and they are the things that I would say to myself, because they are true. I am lots of other things, but they were the things that I wanted to focus on, and they were like my little safety things.
Yeah.
And I think by that repetition in my mind of that, it wouldn't allow my brain to then run off and do other crazy, negative, unhelpful things.
And I think it's interesting, what helps individual brains.
Yeah.
Like,
got to find your thing.
Especially I find people that aren't particularly religious. The coping mechanisms that they have are really interesting.
Mm.
Me being one of them, I'm not particularly religious. And some of the things I do to calm myself are like weird.
Like?
I'm quite superstitious. So like I have the whole touch wood thing. So if I'm in bed, this is why I have to have a wooden bed frame with poles, because if I'm in bed and I'm going to sleep and I get a thought and I'm like, oh, that can't happen, I can't, that's not okay, I can't think about that kind of thing. Like, it's almost like damning myself, do you know what I mean? I have to hold on to the wood and it has to touch all of my palms, all of my fingers, and I have to say please 3 times in 3 sets, what I want or don't want to happen 3 times in 3 sets, thank you 3 times in 3 sets, and then I can let go. And if I let go in the middle, I have to do the whole thing again. And I have to have my eyes shut. And I can't be interrupted by anything else or any other thought.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Slightly OCD.
Mm-hmm.
But that always helps me, though. After I do that, I'm like, phew, that's done. And then I go to sleep.
Yeah. So it's almost about you having something that you believe helps you, and it doesn't really matter what that is. And that's what you need to be doing. So you need something to work for you. And I don't think it's the same for everyone.
No.
Some people do the deep breathing. Some people will do the mantra thing that I've just said that I do. I do both at the same time because, multitasking.
Yeah, just super cool.
It still takes time and effort to do, and you do the weird grabby thing. Some people have elastic bands on their wrists, don't they? And they ping elastic bands when they feel stressed. Some people just want to talk to someone else.
Sometimes most of the time that is what I do, don't I? The amount of phone calls you get from me where I'm like, oh, mum. Yeah, or text.
And then I sit with it. So you've gone, oh, I feel terrible. I don't feel great, blah, blah, blah. So I sit there and I text you something back, helpful, I hope.
Yeah.
And I wait for the little ... So there's no ... So I'm like, oh, well, she's either collapsed or it's okay. But
That's
I still
fine.
I then feel a bit like, oh my goodness, I hope she's all right. And I don't hear from you for like 24 hours. And then
I'm
you're
like,
fine.
oh, I'm fine. I think quite often when I'm feeling anxious, I've told you this before, for me it feels like a bubble, like I'm enclosed in a bubble, and it's just getting smaller and smaller and higher. And if I tell somebody else, it just feels like it lets a bit of air out.
Yeah.
Like I'm still anxious, but I feel less like like it's building and building and building and I'm on my own. Like it just lets a bit of steam off. So sometimes I literally just need to text you and be like, I'm feeling really anxious, just to let you know.
Yeah, and we used to do it when you were younger, didn't we? We used to go down the route of, okay, so what are you feeling anxious about? Oh, I'm feeling anxious. I'm, going to be sick somewhere. Okay, so what would happen if you were sick somewhere?
Hypochondriac child.
Oh, well, because of blah, 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 blah. That might make me feel really embarrassed. Okay, so if you're really embarrassed, so then what would happen? Well, I don't know, maybe some of the kids would laugh at me. Would it matter if some of the kids laughed at you, Ava? Well, no, not really. Blah, blah, blah. And this is what we'd do, wouldn't we? We'd do it with your nightmares as well, if you remember. You'd have nightmares of being stuck somewhere or trapped somewhere. And I'd say, okay, so what would we do? What would you do if you were in that situation? So there's a way of sort of training your brain when you're not in the depths of your anxiety, depression, whatever it is that you're feeling, when you're not in the middle of it all, is to look at it later on and think, okay, so what was that about? What was I actually feeling really stressed about? And really, what would happen if that would have happened? And following it through to its nth degree, and 9 times out of 10, it's
fine.
Absolutely fine. Absolutely fine.
Because I've said to you, the reason I get so frustrated with my struggles with anxiety is because a lot of the time it's completely irrational to me. Like, looking at it from a normal, state of mind, out of that, it's like, really? What the fuck? Or sometimes it just comes on for no apparent reason. Sometimes if I think too much about how non-anxious and calm I am, it makes me anxious.
It's such a pain in the arse.
Do you know how many times I've done that?
Yeah.
I've sat in seminars and I've been like, oh, I'm really calm. Oh my God, what if I'm not calm? Why am I so calm?
Yeah.
And then I'm off. And it's Yeah, it's frustrating, but I think
And some of it is a physiological thing, so they can say, can't they? So it's been interesting. Part of my treatment has stopped my pituitary gland working, as you know, which means I don't produce cortisol. So cortisol is the stress hormone, basically. So when you become anxious and you feel that like liquid sensation, don't you?
it
It's
is. That's a really good way to describe
like a
it.
molten liquid, and I can remember me feeling that, and you sort of dissolve internally, and you have that dread sort of crawling around you, which is hideous. But that's actually cortisol, right? So
Oh,
that is what cortisol does.
Dr. Fiona in the building.
But what cortisol is for is like when we were cavemen and you were ambling along with your basket. No, you wouldn't have a basket. Your handful
Club?
of berries and your club in one hand.
Yeah.
You'd be,
Yeah.
lovely. Off
Hi
to
ho.
KFC.
Hi ho.
You turn round, great big dinosaur
Shit.
with sharp teeth.
Oh.
Your cortisol would dissolve and just go bleh,
Yeah.
and you would run faster than you could run without your cortisol, and you could run for longer because it's that energy, it's that surplus stuff, and it pumps into your muscles and it pumps into your brain, so you're super alert and you're super, up for it, and you escape the dinosaur. Hooray.
Or fight it with your club.
Or fight it with your club,
Yeah.
or both.
Or both, yeah. Run and fight.
Yeah. But we don't really need that now so much. So we still have that going on, and that is what anxiety does physically to you. So even being aware that that is kind of swimming around you and that's what's going on, you could do 50 push-ups or something. You could do some physical exercise to drain that cortisol, and that would help you. So if you can't do the mental mindfulness stuff, go and do something really physical. Don't do some star jumps.
Do you know what used to help me, and still kind of does, is having a smoke? And I don't mean that. I mean like a cigarette or something nicotine, because nicotine raises your heart rate anyway. And so I don't know why. It was something to do with, I think, deep breaths, like I was breathing deeply.
Deep breathing.
And the racing of the heart or any sort of heart racing, you put down to like, oh, that's the nicotine, it's not panic. And then by the time that's worn off, your panic's kind of worn off, and then I was just fine to go back inside. It's really interesting. Although I don't promote smoking. I have had issues with that since I was 16, smoking. But
I think what we're saying is, I don't think there is an answer.
There isn't an answer. No.
I think there are lots and lots of different things to try to help, because it depends on you as a person, how you work as a person. And I've tried loads of things over the years to try and make myself deal with situations where I'm anxious and struggling a bit better, because it's not very nice to feel like that. But guys, everybody feels like it.
Yeah, that's true.
So don't feel alone with it, because I don't know a single person who doesn't struggle at some time or another
with anxiety.
Don't think you are on your own and it's pathetic and you're really weak. You're really not.
Yeah.
Everybody experiences it. It's just some people have got some tools in their armory to deal with it better.
And maybe just experience it in a less intense way. I think sometimes the way it comes out symptomatically is very different.
Yeah.
But also, we haven't really talked about the depression side of that question. But the reason we haven't spoken about that is because I don't think either of us are particularly experienced in it.
No, not depression as such. I think the closest I've ever been is when my mother died. I think I seriously surfed depression at that point. But like I say, that was a situational thing, and I don't know. Even looking back on that now, I don't know that I could have done anything any differently at that point. Really.
Yeah, I think
all I know is with depression, if it's clinical, you need to speak to somebody, because there are good GPs and bad GPs that deal with it.
Absolutely.
So if you go once and you're not really getting what you need, go and speak to somebody else.
Yeah, I agree.
Because there's the medications that are available now. They're amazing, and they can really make a difference to someone's life. I think there's two types of depression. There is clinical depression that is just, not just because that belittles it, but it's about the chemicals in you. So it's
an imbalance, isn't it?
It's an imbalance. So there's very little you could do as an individual to make that better without medication, because it's a bit like if you've got high blood pressure, you
can't just magically make it lower.
No, sadly.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in that, and I would hope there's no shame in that anymore. And then I think there is depression that is brought on by situations, circumstances. It's no less important. But I think talking therapies and counselling and things like that are probably better for that sort of thing, because there is a hope that situation will pass. You know, if you look at life in its fullest term, that will be a period of your time that is dreadful. And you may feel depressed during that time. You'll probably learn a lot during that time as well. But you'll move through it, and maybe you won't need medication, but certainly talk to someone.
But I also want to stress, you know, that I there is this big stigma that medication, so like antidepressants, are like a failure. You failed because you can't fix yourself. You have to have a pill to fix yourself. You have to lean on a pill, like as a crutch to make yourself happy.
We have pills for everything.
Yeah, right. I think that's so, like, to look at it that way, because ultimately there is something going wrong in your body that is actively having an effect on your life and causing you pain. Is that not just any other physical ailment?
Yeah.
That you'd need medication for, except it's a mental illness, not a physical illness.
Yeah.
So I don't see why there is that stigma. Because, for example, I really struggle with UTIs. I've talked about this very briefly on the pod before. That were literally agony. Like, agony. I had blood, I had back pain, I had abdomen pain. It was like my bladder was on fire for days and days, and it was horrendous. I couldn't do anything about it. I wouldn't have sat there and just sat through it because, oh, well, if I go and get pills, it's a failure because I could have just flushed it out with water. Because I was in agony and I needed it fixed. I couldn't concentrate on anything. I couldn't do anything else. But that's not a failure. So I see antidepressants and medication for mental health and mental illnesses in very much the same ballpark.
I agree.
As physical illnesses.
I agree. But to broaden that very slightly, to use your analogy of the medication for your UTIs, and pills for depression or whatever it is, you cannot rely on that alone. So,
no, of course.
You know, your UTIs, you did need to drink lots of water as well, and you did need to look after yourself.
Of course.
And you did need to rest. You know, yes, those pills will help, and they will treat the symptoms, but some of the causes need to be looked at as well. And I would say the same about mental illness / depression / anything really. Yes, pills will help you deal with the clinical side of things, but you know, if you're depressed because, I don't know, you're introverted and you don't go out and you sit in your flat on your own all the time and you don't see friends and you don't feel like you've got a social life and you don't feel like you've got anything going for you, for instance, a pill's not going to change that.
No. Yeah. No, you're right.
So yeah, I think we have to be more holistic about it. I'm not really one way or the other, but I think the medical profession, they maybe look at a too narrow brief. So they'll sit you down and treat what they can see clinically, but really we need to be thinking about how people are living their lives as well as all of that.
It is a holistic thing. Do you know the word holistic? You might not understand this reference, but I think maybe you will. The people watching it will. Do you remember that X Factor audition? Hi, my name's Ariel, and I'm a holistic vocal coach. And Simon goes, well, what's that? And she goes, I'm a vocal coach, and I teach holistically. And she's really scary.
No.
I got that super sexy swingy thing that you just can't ignore. You want to hear some metal? You want to hear me roar? I got the X Factor.
Okay, no.
Do you remember her?
No.
Oh, anyway, her. That's what the word holistic reminds me of, because she was a holistic vocal coach.
Right. I'm not that.
Anyway, I can't believe how much of that I remembered. That was quite
too
impressive.
much, wasn't it?
I've seen it so many times. First of all, I'm a person, not a number. That one.
Okay, moving on.
Anyway, I think this is the last question. And you're going to go on about it for fucking ages.
Go on in.
How do you get meditation to work? It doesn't seem to work for me from what I've tried. So what other advice do you recommend to de-stress during stressful times?
Okay, so you did tell me I was going to be asked this, and I have been meditating.
Okay, go on then.
Okay, so meditation, you've got to think of meditation the same way as you would think about learning anything, in that there isn't an end point where you have achieved something. Okay, so your boyfriend at the moment goes to the gym.
Yes.
Yeah? And he is trying to get himself fitter and more muscly. So he's training himself.
Yeah.
He's not just going to go from being the way he is at the moment to some beefcake.
You make it sound like he's not a beefcake already.
He's a total hottie. But he's not going to physically change his body like at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
He's going to try and do some stuff, and then if he stops, he'll stay at that level for a bit, and then he'll try and do some more. So meditation, your brain is the most powerful thing in the world. It's more powerful than any computer that they've come up with. It can come up with all sorts of scenarios. It can make you well. It can make you unwell. It can make your life fantastic. It can ruin your life. Your brain can do whatever it wants. It's its own being. And it really frightened me when I thought about how powerful my brain was.
Yeah, it is.
And how little control I felt I had over it. And that, sometimes when I'd feel things, I would take that as fact. And actually, they're not necessarily fact. They are feelings. And that was a revelation to me as well. If I didn't like someone, I felt I didn't like them. That was exactly right. They weren't very nice. But
yeah, that's interesting.
That is not true. That is how something has made me feel about that person. That doesn't make that person not very nice.
I think that is within reason, though. I don't think anyone could sit there and be like, oh, yeah, Hitler was great. Bless him, just a bit misunderstood.
He probably had some bits about him that were okay.
Yeah, everyone has bits about them that are okay.
Exactly. So it's perception, isn't it? That is your brain controlling the narrative, okay? Mm-hmm. So with meditation, unless you're some sort of Buddha, meditation is always a work in progress. So I can't sit by myself and not have a guided meditation very easily, because my brain will run off and just create all sorts of havoc. So the purpose of meditation is to try and try and be present with what your mind is doing. Okay, so when you're sitting,
what does that mean?
So you're aware when you're driving your car, if you don't have music on and you were just driving your car. So I test myself doing this. I drive to work sometimes. I don't put the radio on. I will think a gazillion different things.
Yeah.
Half of them just flit in and out, and half of them I'll think, oh, that's quite an interesting thought. I'll pursue that. It's usually about paying off my mortgage or some erroneous crap, really.
I make false scenarios and I sit there talking to myself.
Whatever. But a lot of the time, our mind is occupied with life, isn't it? Doing what we're doing. Hopefully, when you're driving, you are actually concentrating a little bit on the road and what's going on around you. If you're at work or you're at uni or you're with friends or you're watching TV, our mind is occupied, so it can't be naughty. How often do we sit and just be with our minds? Probably when we're trying to go to sleep. So a lot of people have trouble going to sleep because that is the only time that their mind is allowed to do whatever it wants to do without some sort of stimulant. You'll then find people scrolling on their phones, or they'll put iPads on or whatever, or try and distract themselves. Meditation is trying to give yourself or your mind the space to do what it wants to do. So it's not about stopping it doing what it wants to do, but it's about trying to bring yourself back and not allow it to escape down little wormholes. Even if it's just for 3 minutes a day, you could just sit, be quiet, listen to your breathing go in and out, notice what your mind's doing, and if it does scarper off, you just think, no, I'm going to breathe. I'm going to breathe, and all I'm going to listen to is my heart, and I can feel myself breathing in and out for 3 minutes. Do it while you're brushing your teeth. Do it before you get out of bed in the morning. Do it before you go to sleep at night. And what that will do, if you continue to try and do it, you won't always succeed. I don't always succeed. Sometimes I feel like those 3 minutes, all I've done is like pull my mind back from where it's trying to get to. I haven't got to the point where I've just listened to my breathing for 3 minutes. That would be great. All I've done is I've tried to breathe and then, my foot's itchy. Oh, no, I'm not doing that. Or something else. And no, I'm not doing that. I'm breathing. That's what I'm doing. What that will allow you to do, if you keep practicing it and keep not achieving it, but you're practicing it, when you start feeling panicky or your brain is trying to pull you down a path that you don't want to go to, because you have practiced bringing it back to actually where you are, not where your brain is trying to take you to, which is a non-real situation. Mm-hmm. Yes?
Yeah.
Because you have practiced bringing yourself back to being actually where you are, which is perfectly safe and you're perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. Because you've practiced it, it will become easier. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. But I feel like when I've tried meditation, I always find that I spend the whole time like fighting off other thoughts.
Exactly. But that is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
You're never, well, maybe you will get to the point. That would be great if you did, but I haven't, and I'm 52, and I practice it twice a day, every day.
For years. You've done that for years.
And I haven't, very rarely do I get to the point where all I have done is listen to my breathing in and out. Most of the time I'm acknowledging where my brain is going and thinking, no, I need to come back to me. This is not what I'm doing right now. Mm. If you're struggling with that, there are lots and lots of apps. So there's Buddhify is my favourite app. I dip my toe in the water of Buddhism because it is all about improving yourself, not improving the world, which I like. Who are we to say that you're wrong and I'm completely right?
Yeah.
But there is an app called Buddhify, and they've got lots of guided meditations on there. So some chap or some lady will talk you through a meditation. So that's probably quite good if you feel like you're struggling to concentrate on yourself as a starting thing. But guys, it is all about the practice. It's not the achievement. You're never going to be great. But what you will learn to do is hopefully learn to be able to not control your mind, but be more focused about schooling it into not allowing it to drag you to situations that aren't real. They're not real. Your panic and your anxiety are not real, are they? That you're not going to be doused with fire. You're not in any peril.
No, you're in mental peril.
You're in mental peril, but
not
it's
physical
created.
Peril. Yeah.
It's a created scenario. It's not a real scenario. You haven't got that dragon breathing fire at you. You aren't faced with going over the tops in the trenches in the war and having people shoot at you. You're not in those situations that need that adrenaline. You're worrying about things that might happen. This might happen. It might happen. Mm-hmm. Equally, it might not. So,
yeah. Let's just all chill out a bit.
Yeah, acknowledge that it's there. You're okay to feel anxious, but what you're not okay to feel is, to the point where it paralyses you and you can't actually do anything. That's an issue. So if you can practice just not letting your brain get away from you so much, it will help, I think.
I think that was good. That was a good answer. I really recommend listening to meditations as well, because whenever I've done it, I can't do it without. I can't just sit there on my own.
No,
I have to have a meditation person talking to me.
Try it. Try all of the things that are out there. There's Mindspace. There's all sorts of things. Loads of apps and stuff. Just try loads of different stuff. There is no right or wrong answer. It's just what works for you. Some people like visual things, don't they? So they'll stare at Buddhists. They recommend staring at a candle. You can stare at candle flame for 3 minutes. So you're not listening to your breathing at all.
That's a good idea.
All you're focusing on is a real flame, because it moves and it flickers and it does this, that and the other. And if you feel your mind thinking, something else, no. All you're doing is looking at that flame.
That's a really good alternative. I think that would be beneficial for the way my mind works.
Yeah.
Is to look at something.
So some people need visual, some people need audio stuff. Some people just want their eyes shut and they want to just concentrate on their breathing. Some people want somebody talking to them about different things. So just try everything.
I like that. That's a good piece of advice. And I do have one more question because it's just a quick one and I think it'll be quite funny. What is the best pickup line?
Oh my God. I don't think I've ever heard a good pickup line, really. I don't even know. I think I'm so old and jaded now, nothing would work on me particularly.
I think opposite, because I think if someone did a pickup line on you, it would laugh you into bed. Like, you'd just find it so funny.
Yeah, well, humour is always funny, isn't it? Humour is
the best.
It's that thing, isn't it, about not being sleazy, not feeling like you're just anybody that just happened to be in the bar or wherever it is at that particular point. So if you're going to go and talk to someone. Don't just go and pick someone up. Do you know what I mean?
I think that is the key to it, is there needs to be something unique to that person, and that this line hasn't been used on six women over there.
If you notice somebody, so if I was going to go and chat up Grumpy Frog, I would go up to Grumpy Frog and say, I really noticed your hat when you walked in the bar. Really liked the white bobble on it. And why are you so miserable? What's up?
Yeah.
Because I'm talking to that. It's crazy, but I'm talking to the green grumpy frog. If I was talking to Father Christmas, I'd have a completely different, although he's got quite a funky hat, I'd be talking about his beard.
Yeah.
Don't make that person feel like you're just chatting them up because you want a shag. That's so... Ugh. Talk to them like they are a human being.
Yeah.
And I think if it can be humorous, it's a win, isn't it?
I think that is absolutely the root, is funny, is like joke.
Funny and personal.
But equally not slating them. Like, that's
not...
I think so many guys think that's Riz, that's like a flirting technique.
I read something on there though, make a girl feel shit, and then when you compliment her, she'll appreciate it more. Yeah, what the fuck is that? Honestly, the amount of guys, because I'm just so attractive, I don't mean it in this way, but like every woman I think in their 20s gets hit on quite a lot in clubs. But the amount of guys that come up and say something insulting to me in a club because they think it's a way of hitting on me. Honestly, not once have I ever been like, oh. Not once. Every single time I'm like, fuck off. Like, I've had the amount of guys that have been like, why do you look so moody? Maybe I can cheer you up, kind of thing. It's like, no, you can't. No, go away.
Go away. I'm actually more moody now because you've come over and said
kind
that.
You've ruined it.
Yeah.
No.
Do you know what I mean? And like, I think that's not Riz. It's Riz later on. If you've been dating for a while, I completely appreciate, like a bit of banter and a bit of humour.
Well, yeah,
obviously taking the piss a bit. But I don't think on when you meet each other on that day, on the pickup line, you can't be like, I hate the colour of your dress.
No.
Like, maybe it would look better on the floor. That's such a...
Get your coat you've pulled. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
No.
I hate that.
No, just chat. Just chat. Be funny. Don't be a knob. Don't think you're the best thing in the whole wide world. And
have confidence, though.
Yeah.
I know that's really counterproductive from what you've just said.
Yeah, but there's a fine line. Confidence is attractive.
Arrogance isn't.
Arrogance is really unattractive and unsexy,
I agree.
I think, because it's just horrible.
I think both is unattractive. Like, if someone came over and was like, get your coat you've pulled, like, that arrogance is like, ooh. And if someone came over and was like, oh, sorry, I actually think that you're really quite attractive. That's also ooh. Like, please, if you're going to talk to me, like, do it with chest. Like, both are unattractive. You need to... I think genuinely, the more casual it is, the more that you're like, oh, hi, I just noticed you from over there. Like, it's like, I'd like to talk to you, but equally it's not the end of the world if you say no. That balance, perfection. That's the golden bar.
Yeah. And I'm not sure which one of your friends sent that in, but I have an idea. And really, you shouldn't have any problem with that, should you? Just saying.
I think you know who it is.
I think I do. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, guys, have a lovely Christmas. Be nice to
Are you wrapping me up on my show?
Well, I kind of feel that's the end of it, isn't it? Sorry.
I mean, it is.
It's the
I
end
was
of
going
my-
to say, have you got any final words of advice? But fine, if you're wrapping me up on my podcast, we'll wrap up then.
Have a lovely Christmas. Be good to your family. Be happy. And have some drinks. Be sensible. Love each other. See you
Live,
in the new
laugh,
year.
love.
And try meditation. And yeah, look after each other. That's what I would say.
To the 20-somethings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you. Thanks for coming on.
Pleasure. Love you.
Love you too. I can't believe you just wrapped me up. You
Sorry.
wrapped me
that's
up on my own
embarrassing. I'm sorry.
podcast. It's such a mum thing to do.
I know it is. Sorry.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody, for watching episode 8 of 20-somethings with my mom. I hope you liked it. I haven't actually filmed it with my mum yet as I'm recording this, but I'm hoping that she'll sit there and be like, yeah, I loved it, won't you? Whoop whoop. So I hope you have a really Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Get shit-faced, that's what Christmas is about. Bye. Because we're on our 20-somethings and we all gather around. I'm going to do it and just edit it in. Are you ready to rumble?
I'm ready.
Oh,
For you?
clearly not.
It's Jeremy.
It is Jeremy, I know. Sorry.
Don't like it. My OCD's kicking in.
Sorry.
It's alright. I'm their students.
Hold your breath. Advice? No. She offers your advice to the questions. No. I'm having a stroke. Right. My mum is just sat there shaking her head. She's so disappointed in me. I've never been wrapped up by someone else.
End of conversation. I'm hungry. I need lunch.
Now we can turn it off. Thank you.